Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to our 9th episode, mashallah. And today we're going a bit further into Asia. We're going to look into India. I'm Dr. Stef Keris, and I would like to take you through a journey through our Islamic history, through dynasties and empires, through the achievements of Muslims in the world, and not only because of some battles, but there were achievements that we have to consider and realize and take lessons from. The last episode was talking about the Mongols and how they expanded through Asia and created such a massive territory, which went in history as the most extensive territory in the world, empire in the world actually. And the Mongols, actually, one exciting fact is that they got split into 4 different big territories and parts, and out of these 4, 3 of them accepted the faith, accepted the deen, mashallah, became Muslim. The only ones are the ones who were ruling in China, who did not accept Islam. Now, in that area, talking about Asia, going deeper into Asia, talking about India, what was happening with India? And especially nowadays, with the problems that our Muslim brethren face in India, it is extremely important for us to realize that as haters of Islam say, as the government even says, and as people ruling in the ruling part in India say, that Islam is actually, they came from outside the Muslims, they're invaders, they invaded Indian culture and have nothing to do with India. Hinduism is the main religion of India, they say, and a real and good Indian is a Hindu Indian. Now, we should not forget that we're talking about hundreds of millions of Muslim Indians, hundreds of millions of them. If we take the Indian subcontinent, then there is a massive amount, a huge amount of Indian Muslims in the world who play a big part in the Muslim Ummah. And we should not forget that when we look back at Tariq bin Ziyad, the Berber from North Africa, the Muslim Berber from North Africa, who actually went and opened Gibraltar, Al-Andalus, France, Europe to Islam, mashallah, in the 8th century, in the year 711. The very same year that Islam entered Europe, Islam entered India as well, and Asia. 711 on the one side meant Gibraltar and Al-Andalus, and on the other side it meant India. The Sindh province, okay, the Sindh province, which is nowadays in Pakistan, of course, a big part of Pakistan. There was that time nothing else but the Indian subcontinent, okay, and we know that Pakistan was created in the 20th century, and before it was basically part of the Indian subcontinent. Muhammad Ibn Qasim, by the way, was the one, so Tariq bin Ziyad in the west, Muhammad Ibn Qasim in the east, who opened certain places, the Sindh province, for Islam, mashallah. Very important point to see, and it's very good to remember. So although I'm somebody who also in lectures keeps saying, you know, it's not about dates and battles, but there are certain dates I would like you to remember. And I think one of the important dates that we should remember as Muslims is the opening of the west of Europe in 711, and during the same time the opening of India as well in the east.
This video is sponsored by the Muqaddimah program.
For nearly 7 centuries, Ibn Khaldun's Muqaddimah has been read and studied by scholars and students of history, sociology, politics and economics as the single most authoritative and astounding work of classical scholarship in the field of history.
Embark on an enlightening educational venture led by Muslim scholars and teachers delving into Islamic history, sociology, economics and beyond. Engage with cutting-edge learning cues and multimedia components, allowing for a deeper understanding of the topics. Distinguish between the lies and the truths of the narratives told, between reliable and unreliable sources. Equip yourself with the skills to conduct deep research and build confidence to combat Islamophobia. Come and strengthen your Muslim identity today. Grab the course in the video description.
The initial Muslim rule, of course, was Umayyad rule. We are still talking about the Umayyads up to 750, as we all know, until they got massacred by the Abbasids. And they were ruling along the Indus River in present-day Pakistan. In the 10th century, 11th century actually, between 998 and 1030, Mahmud of Ghazna, some of you might be familiar with his name, entered into the interior of India and created a new dynasty which was called the Ghaznavids. His name, Mahmud of Ghazna, coming from Ghazna, he created the Ghaznavids, being based, basically the name comes from the town of Ghazna, or the area of Ghazna, which is in Afghanistan. Later it became Lahore, by the way. This very place, Ghazna, became later Lahore. The successors of the Ghurids were the first permanent Muslim settlers in India. Okay. Now, under Mahmud of Ghazna, there was a Persian scholar who many people might have heard of, Al-Biruni, a very, very important person again, and again a Persian scholar, and we have mentioned that many times. I think Islam and scholarship went from the Arabs actually to the Persians, and the Persians did a lot for Islamic literature and for scholarship in Islam. Now, this Al-Biruni stayed in India to write a first ever in Islamic history, a book about a non-Muslim people. He wrote the Kitab al-Hind, okay? The Kitab al-Hind. And as we all know, India had a high civilization that time also. And don't forget that a lot of elements that the Arabs and the Muslims took over came from India and from China, of course. So all this played an important role with the way they looked at the Indians. And this Kitab al-Hind plays a role even nowadays if you want to understand culture and civilization of India of that time. So scholarship, a very important point that was left behind in the 11th, 12th centuries. By 1186, the Ghurids had occupied Ghazna and Lahore. The Ghaznavids were actually finished then. Okay. By 1192, the last Hindu ruler of Delhi was defeated by the Ghurids. 1192, so the end of the 12th century. Then we're moving into the 13th century, so the century of the Mongols, basically the one we discussed in the last episode. What happens during that time in 1206, the beginning of the 13th century, Muhammad Ghuri dies, okay? His Turkish general, okay, of Turkic origin, Qutb ad-Din Aibak, continued the opening of India, establishing the first Delhi-based Muslim dynasty. And that one started the Delhi Sultanate. Okay, that basically became a sultanate in the northern part of India and in what is nowadays Pakistan. Okay, so that's very important to see. Now, this Delhi Sultanate actually was nothing else than 5 dynasties who were Delhi-based, and that's why it's called the Delhi Sultanate. We use a singular, although actually we should use a plural. Between 1206 and 1526. Long period of time, we're talking about 3 to 4 centuries of the Delhi Sultanate, which was divided into different dynasties, into different ruling families. Between 1206, starting with the Mamluk dynasty, slaves again, and I think we mentioned it in another episode. These were slaves, Muslim slaves, going all the way to the Khaljis, the Tughluqids, the Sayyids, and finishing off with the Lodis, okay, between 1451 and 1526. We will take a quick look, a brief look through all of them. If you want to have more details again, if you want to know more about each one of these dynasties and each one of these people, then take a look at our courses that we offer online to get a better idea of them, who they were, what they did. Now, let's take a quick look through them. So, first of all, the Mamluk dynasty, the slave dynasty, that was the ruling dynasty in the 13th century, so between 1206 and 1290. Aibak was a Turkish slave soldier who founded this dynasty. Okay, he started in Lahore and then went over to Delhi, where he built the first great mosque of India, the Quwwat-ul-Islam. This mosque was built from 27 Hindu and Jain temples. So they destroyed basically temples to build this mosque. And this is something that Hindus nowadays and people in India, non-Muslims, take as a big offense, of course, you know. Now, he started the Qutb Minar, which is a minaret, next to the mosque with more than 72 meters, one of the tallest minarets of its kind in the world. Other minarets in mosque were built during the same time in Central Asia, such as the minaret of Jam, which can be found in Central Asia. And these are minarets that still stand nowadays and can be admired nowadays, and are the biggest ones in the world. In Old Delhi, for example, the part which is Muslim Delhi, if you want to call it that way, you will find quite some Islamic elements from that time that can be visited nowadays. And it's worth it, whoever has the chance to go and take a look. It is definitely something that is interesting, not only for Muslims. The third Mamluk ruler was Iltutmish. Okay, he united northern India from Sindh, Pakistan, to Bengal in the east. He was given the title Nasir Amir al-Mu'minin, the helper of the commander of the faithful. And this was given by the Abbasid Caliph al-Mustansir in the year 1229. So in the 13th century, the Abbasids were still there before the destructive time of the Mongols in 1258, and the Abbasids still had a lot to say and did actually acknowledge the Mamluk dynasty. The next dynasty is the dynasty of the Khaljis, which falls still under the Delhi Sultanate. So the dynasty of the Khaljis between 1290 and 1321 did not last very long, around 30 years. The dynasty that comes after them, follows them, is the Tughluqids between 1321 and 1414, nearly 100 years, which gives a better idea of this Delhi Sultanate. Muhammad Ibn Tughluq, the founder of this dynasty, attempted to move the capital from Delhi to Dawlatabad, but failed, and many residents died on their way back. Subhanallah. These are sad stories during the time of big civilizations. Merciless towards his Hindu subjects and Hindu revolts, he actually killed a lot of Hindus during his reign. And again, until the day of today, his name doesn't ring well in Hindu ears. He had to fight Hindu revolts. He had to lose territory in the south, and had a failed attempt to conquer Central Asia and Tibet. He came into history. His name is known for replacing silver coins with copper and brass coins, which failed miserably. So that is not something that we can be proud of, this specific Muslim ruler. During that time, by the way, the time of his rule, his reign, the 14th century, one important element I wanted to bring to your attention was the travels of Ibn Battuta. You might have all heard of him. Ibn Battuta, one of the biggest traveler in history, not only Muslim history, but in history at all. He was given a job as a Qadhi under his rule. So he traveled more than 20 years throughout the Muslim world, and he arrived, Ibn Battuta, who came from all the way al-Gharb. He came from what is nowadays Maghreb, Morocco, and he found a job as a Qadhi, as a Muslim Qadhi in Ibn Tughluq's court. And this is again a lesson we should learn from our history, subhanAllah. There was a time we didn't need passports, we didn't need visas, we didn't need to know the language of the people. Arabic was good enough because everybody could speak and had a basic knowledge of Arabic, especially in the elite, in the ruling class, and an Arab Qadhi could practice throughout the entire Muslim world, all the way in Central Asia, subhanAllah. And this is something that I find extremely interesting. This is what unity does. Okay, this is very, very important, subhanAllah. A very important lesson that we take out of this part of the story. The fourth dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate are the Sayyids between 1414 and 1451. And then last but not least, the fifth one, the Lodis, between 1451 and 1526. The first Lodi ruler was called Bahl al-Lodi, who ruled between 1451 and 1489, and he became the governor of Punjab and then the Sultan in Delhi. Okay, again, part of the Delhi Sultanate, as we said. There's much, much more to talk about. Of course, it's a very important part of Indian history and of Islamic history in India, centuries long of different dynasties under the Delhi Sultanate, the name of that part of that reign, and a lot of things that can be still visited nowadays as tourists if you have the chance to go to India to see as well, mashallah. Again, if you want to know more about these dynasties and these empires, take a look at our course that we offer to go deeper and more detailed into them. Jazakumullahu khair. See you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
For almost 7 centuries, the Muqaddimah has been widely regarded as the earliest and most authoritative and seminal text in the fields of sociology and history, outlining the core principles and methods needed to evaluate and convey history with a more objective and critical eye. Its celebrated author, Ibn Khaldun, pioneered a revolutionary approach to the study of history and is considered by some historians to be one of the most influential thinkers in his field. Now, for the very first time, students of Islamic history will have the rare and unique opportunity to study this monumental and classical work of genius under the tutelage and guidance of experts in the field of research and education. We offer a wide and varied range of learning experiences as part of the program, with options for students to participate in person during our on-site lessons in London or remotely via our private and secured live streaming platform. Classes are delivered on a fortnightly basis, and all students enrolling onto the program shall receive a complete learning resource pack, including coursebooks, timetables, and admission onto the online student portal. The annual program is available to students as a certificate or a diploma package, with varying subjects and module components, as well as a practical assessment unit that will culminate in the launch of student-led history projects and publications, following a panel presentation before a group of assessors. This is a unique opportunity to discover and immerse yourself into the world of Islamic historiography under the tutelage and guidance of experts who will assist you in acquiring the core skills and competencies necessary to conduct your own research and launch your own initiatives. To find out more about the Muqaddimah program or to enlist yourself onto this unique and fantastic learning journey, please visit our website at www.almuqaddimah.com, where you will be able to download our program prospectus, register your interest by submitting an application directly via the online enrollment form.